Welcome to the C-Level Strategy Podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and on this podcast, we're not just talking big theory, we're uncovering the real strategies, struggles, and turning points that shape small but mighty teams in the real estate space. So today's guest is Ophir Adar, the founder and CEO at Real Momentum, and we're exploring the theme, the 5 biggest challenges facing real estate firms today. So whether you're building your first team or restructuring after rapid growth, you'll want to hear what Ophir has learned the hard way and what he'd do differently if he had the chance to start over. So let's get into it. Thanks so much for being here, Ophir. I'd like to kick things off by hearing in your own words a little bit about you and the story behind Real Momentum and what you do, who you help, how it all started.
Fantastic. First of all, thanks for having me, Naomi. I appreciate it. And I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of my real estate journey in Los Angeles. So I'm in Los Angeles. I'm still there. I've been there for almost 30 years. And I started in real estate at 30 years old on the Sunset Strip of Los Angeles. And this was 2002. And, by the way, I came from Warner Brothers. I worked at Warner Brothers before that, but I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship for sure. And so I started in real estate in 2002 in the Sunset Strip, and I had a very rough journey at the beginning. I was very lost and wasn't getting a lot of guidance. I remember my manager telling me, just show up. That was her advice. And that doesn't always work, right? Just showing up. And so I got into coaching very quickly, after about a year and a half. And that's when everything changed for me. When I got into coaching and I learned about the formulas for creating success for yourself and how to become a communications expert and build rapport with people quickly and easily. When I learned all of those things, then I became a listing agent within a year. And within 2 years, I became the number one listing agent for all of Keller Williams in California. And so,
Wow.
my motto today is if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's my motto. And so, since then, I was the number one agent for Keller Williams in all of California. And then I started coaching agents in 2007. And that's when I really got into supporting other agents in their growth. And because I had a lot of success, they invited me to manage offices for them. So I managed Keller Williams in Los Angeles, Hancock Park. I built it from the ground up. And a lot of these formulas that I'm going to share with you today come from my experiences, not just as an agent, but also supporting other agents in building their businesses throughout the last 20 years. Shortcuts, the quickest ways to get there, right? Because that's what we all want to hear. And so, I managed for Keller Williams. And then I managed for Coldwell Banker, 4 offices. And then the last place I was Compass, Beverly Hills, and Hollywood, which were 2 of the top offices in the world for residential real estate and $8 billion in transactions. And I actually stepped down 2 years ago because I saw this need for coaching for entrepreneurs. I just felt like they weren't getting the guidance that they needed to in order to build their business the right way. And when they do get that guidance, I would see them actually succeed at a much higher level. And so it was really important to me to be able to support agents. And I stepped down from managing to start this coaching company called Real Momentum. And we call it Real Momentum because you can have momentum and still be going down the wrong track, right? And it's not that I think
That's
people,
true.
yeah, I don't think people are lazy. I think they work really hard, but they don't get a lot, they don't have a lot to show for it. And so, that's the basis of Real Momentum is really, we're going to show you exactly how to build your business the right way, how to create the right habits to support your business, and learn how to build your business, your database full of sellers, which is the goal for real estate entrepreneur. And so that was the intention behind the coaching program, Real Momentum. And our mantra is feed your white wolf. And it's really important because I have found in my 25 years that that is the difference between success and mediocrity, right? Is whatever we all have. There's an old Cherokee Indian story where a tribe leader is sitting with a young Cherokee Indian child, and the tribe leader says to the child, I have a fight going on inside me at all times. There's a white wolf that's love and collaboration and compassion and abundance. And I have a dark wolf that's scarcity and ego and frustration and fear. And the young child says, which one wins? And the old tribe leader says, the one you feed. And so, really, in life, you're either feeding your dark wolf or your white wolf. And whichever one you feed is going to influence everything that you do.
I love that saying as well, because when it comes to the momentum that you build, it's so important to make sure that you're feeding the right side of where you want to end up, because you end up climbing the ladder and realizing that you're on the wrong side of the mountain or the obstacle that you wanted to climb. So I love that you're focusing on, feeding the right side of where you'd like to grow into. And that sounds like it can apply to your personal life and your professional life.
Oh my God, it's enormous, right? First of all, I believe that all of our wheels, so to speak, they all, mirror each other, right? Like it's not like you're going to do
Mm,
something in one area of your life, it's not going to bleed into or affect other areas of your life. Yeah. And so absolutely it works for anybody, not just real estate for sure, for sales, but also for your life. I was a very shut down, depressed human being for most of my life, and I didn't understand why. But once I started to explore and learn these things, I understood it because I was looking at everything from a lens of failure, right? Of it's not going to work. And so I was creating it's not going to work because that's everything that I saw. That's everything that my
yeah.
lens saw was why should it fail? Why is it not going to work, right?
And what would you say that, professionals starting out in the real estate space, what's the lens that you would encourage them to look through now at the start of their careers?
Well, I mean, it's about feeding motivational, inspirational things into your mind, right? Because
Mm,
especially in entrepreneurship in real estate, you're going to have a lot of people trying to negate everything that you're doing, telling you everything you're doing is wrong. Who are you listening to? Who are the people that are influencing your thoughts? So, I mean, there's so many different inspirational things you could be listening to, feeding into your mind. My favorite is affirmations, right? Affirmations are the most powerful way to quickly shift your perspective of how you're looking at things. Change the way you
amazing.
look at things, and the things you look at will change.
That's very true. I think that's also an important message, especially when it comes to the cycles of real estate. A lot of professionals can kind of get down in the dumps when the cycle goes a bit low and business slows down. So having that lens of looking into the white wolf and looking more at the motivation and the positivity that can come out of it seems like such a key differentiating factor between agent to agent.
Absolutely. And, I will take it even further, right? Like, I believe that you are either looking at our time right now with scarcity or you're looking at it as a land of opportunity. And that real momentum, this is the land of this shift that we're about to have, this change in the market, this correction, so to speak, will create some of the most successful entrepreneurs around. It's a land of opportunity for people that want to succeed.
That's really powerful. I think that takes us to a perfect stage where we can start to talk about some of the formulas that you wanted to share with a few of the real estate professionals starting out their careers. What would you do differently if you were starting out now?
Absolutely. If I started now knowing what I know, I would have got into coaching right away at the beginning of my career. So I didn't have to go through all of that pain and struggle and doubt and self-doubt, right? And sometimes they're taught things that actually could work if they were taught the right way, right? They could work, but here's what I would share with people. Don't expect to be good at real estate until you get into coaching and training, right? Like, how do you come into any industry and be like, I'm going to be good at that without getting training? It's just impossible, right? Just because you're good at talking to people doesn't mean you're good at talking to people about real estate. And so, how do we quickly get comfortable doing those things? It's through role play. It's through having real estate conversations on a regular daily basis, handling objections, focusing on people that are motivated, right? And so you should be practicing and learning these things on a regular basis so that you're focusing on supporting the right people.
That's true. I think that training lens is one that's not often spoken about. I think a lot of people end up in real estate without necessarily having that, intense training and the coaching that really shapes the frame for all of the interactions that they'll face in the profession.
Absolutely. And there's so many things that we need to know, especially systems, right? And leverage and how to communicate effectively. All of those things come from practicing, right? And so
Yeah.
you're either practicing on clients or you practice and then talk to clients, right?
Yes,
I'd rather
that's true.
I'd rather, in real estate, we're talking about a commission being, $50,000, $100,000. You're talking about massive amounts of money. I would want to practice before I got into the real game, right?
Definitely. That's a really crucial element. So we've got the training and the coaching. Maybe you can share two others that you would recommend, sort of formulas that you live by in, teaching your coaching clients how they can succeed.
Absolutely. So the number one myth is that you can't be a listing agent at the beginning of your career. That's it. That's the number one myth that they want you to believe. And luckily, because I got into coaching, my coach told me I could be a listing agent at the beginning of my career. And so that's what I became right at the beginning of my career. And all I handled for most of my career was 80% listings. And so listings are leverage, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you should understand that the power is with listings always. Listings equals leverage equals tracks buyers coming to you, right? Equals controlling the market. And so you want to be a listing agent at the beginning of your career and start building your business by focusing on sellers, not on buyers. That's the only difference, right? Is that you're focused on building your business full of sellers versus building your business full of buyers at the beginning of your career.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that you mentioned that you had some experience starting up in how you were dealing with clients. Where did you build that up? Did you have the kind of training, or did you have to kind of learn on the job and go through a lot of trial and error?
No, that's a wonderful question. It's something I talked to my students about yesterday, which is you should constantly be in training to get better. You should be doing a training at least once every 6 months. And I'm talking about a week-long training, right? At least once every 6 months, because that energizes you, that gets you motivated, that gets you excited, teaches you new things, and it gets you into action, right? And so people think, oh, if I go to those things, I won't have time to do my business. And it's the exact opposite, right? And it's funny because I
Yeah.
talk about this a lot, Naomi. Business is counterintuitive to human nature, right? In human nature, we're just used to just doing whatever's put in front of us and getting it done. And in business, you got to take a step back. And it's uncomfortable, but you got to take a step back and put systems in to handle it the right way. Otherwise, you'll be running around just chasing after business like most agents, running around with your like a chicken with your head cut off and have very little results to show for it. And that's why 80% of the agents are out of business in the first year or two.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well to show how that strategic shift, at least every 6 months, can power you up and give you that level of resilience that you need for the cyclical nature of the market and just, ebbs and flows in business in general.
Yeah, I mean, you know who Barbara Corcoran is, who runs the Corcoran, or ran the Corcoran Group a while ago,
Yeah.
but started the Corcoran Group. I love her. She's great. She says the only difference between her $64,000 producers and her $8 million producers are the $8 million producers get knocked down and get right back up again, right? It's the resilience. You're absolutely right. I
Mm.
mean, that is a key component, right? And I talk about it in my book too, about like when you are pushing yourself past comfort zones, that's when you get the spiritual energy from the universe, right? That's when the universe will support you. When you're in action, the universe will support you.
That's true. And it goes with the saying about how you only really grow when you're out of that comfort zone. So I feel like those training sessions will help you to get that edge and maybe a bit of fearlessness into some of those areas of discomfort that you otherwise wouldn't have walked into and would maybe shy away from.
And Naomi, I love what you said. And I don't look at it as fearlessness, right? I look at it as feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
This is actually a book. It's a great book,
Mm,
right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. But it's about it's about the commitment and the consistency, right? That's why we have meetings every morning at 7:30 a.m. We do role play every day. My agents are with me at least once, sometimes twice or three times a day. Because when you're constantly in that what I call incubator for success, you can't fail, right? But in general, real estate agents start to go down a rabbit hole, another rabbit hole, right? And they're done, right? And so you want to put yourself in a position to succeed. You want to place yourself in an environment that supports your success.
yeah, that's really powerful. Like you said, feeling the fear and doing it anyway is such a crucial way to go about life in general. Not shying away from things because you feel the fear, but actually walking into it because you do. So I love that.
Yeah, and do you know what the number one thing that causes the death of most entrepreneurs? It's called mind reading, right? And we all do it,
Mm,
right? But especially if you're in a position where you're just starting something out and you're not so confident, you're going to start to mind read that it's not going to work, right? What I'm doing isn't going to work. So if that's what you're mind reading, why would you ever want to reach out to somebody and call them if you already know that's not going to work? So we're
very true.
constantly psyching ourselves out, mind reading, and preventing ourselves from doing things just by doing simple, by simply, having our unconscious mind uh, project things onto the results so that we don't do it.
Very true.
We
Yeah,
protect ourselves.
that's very true. I think it's so crucial as well because, like you said, a lot of the roadblocks that entrepreneurs face are typically stemming from their own minds. So forecasting,
Yes.
negativity or worst case scenario. So it
Yes.
really does help to kind of pause and just say, okay, what are the facts here? What's the worst that can happen? And make a decision based on what's real.
We can look at anything, glass half empty or half full. Your choice. You choose whether you're going to look at a glass half empty or glass half full. So yeah, we want to reframing is one of the most powerful tools in the world, right? Reframing how you're looking at things.
Definitely. I love that. That's such a powerful message. And then maybe you can share one last formula, one thing that you teach all of your students, your agents,
Yeah.
on how they can differentiate themselves in the market, on a global scale.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's you're doing one of two things. You're either proactive or you're reactive, right? And we have a chart that we want you to put up right in front of you and look at every situation as see whether you're being proactive or reactive, right? And most of my life, I was reactive. Everything was happening to me. Life was just happening to me. I had no control over it, right? And so when you're proactive, you're in control, right? You're the one who's taking responsibility. I see so many agents try to set up their careers, their businesses, getting people to reach out to them, right? That's their goal is trying to get them to reach out. No, you're in sales. Your job is to reach out to people. When I teach agents how to simply talk to 5 people a day and build rapport and add them into their database, right? 5 people a day, that's it. The results are astronomically amazing, right? They're exponentially phenomenal. It's just most agents aren't doing that. They're not consistently talking to people, building their business, and looking for sellers.
Okay, amazing. That sounds like a really strategic step up as well. With just five, it's very manageable. With busy schedules, you can manage five. And it also allows you to get a bit of a diverse array of interactions with different characters, people from across the world even. So I feel like that really helps to build up your personality, your professional persona as well in dealing with different queries, concerns, issues.
How do we get better at things? By doing them, right? The more you talk to people, the more opportunities you have to do things, the quicker your speed to success, right?
Definitely. And those networks can then compound, and you can start to find some
some real
synergies between them.
momentum. You get some real
Exactly.
momentum.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being a golden thread through everything about why it really helps and why it's such a relevant name for a brand, and also the psychological nuances that it has on really keeping that real momentum going in the right direction.
Yeah, and how do we get momentum in real estate and business entrepreneurship? It's leverage, right? Leverage the business you have into more business, but most agents get a little bit of business and they start facilitating it, and then they're like, I can't lead generate. And so then they have to start from the beginning and they have a roller coaster ride of a career. And so we keep the pedal down, and we meet every single day. We set goals every week. We review our goals. What did we do? What didn't we do? And we set goals for the new week. And when you keep it simple, right? That's when you succeed at the highest level.
That kind of guidance sounds really invaluable because a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the day to day, like you said. A lot of professionals in real estate and in other industries can really get stuck in wanting to get more clients, wanting the dollar bills to stack up without really investing in the strategy behind it, which is what you're really promoting about how necessary it is.
And if you're not really focused on, building your database and talking to people, then what ends up happening is you get a lead and you try to massage it into a deal. And I call it my favorite golem. It's like my precious little lead, my
Yes.
precious lead, right? And
Yeah.
you try to make it into a deal, and then you spend so much time working on that and it doesn't come to fruition. Whereas we want to find the motivated, we want to find the people that respect what we do, that care about wanting to work with somebody who can support them. And there are plenty of them out there. That's who we're looking for, right?
Yeah, and I think that mentality shift as well can is transcends past just your words, Your clients will start to think, okay, this person isn't choking me as a client, isn't so desperate at keeping me. It's almost effortless, just professional and competent. A lot of professionals can come across as desperate, and then that kind of pushes people away. So,
We
like
call
you
we
said,
call it
not
commission breath in real estate. It's commission breath, right?
that's
Yeah.
true.
And I by the way, I've now managed for four of the biggest companies in the world, and three of the biggest companies in the world, and I have a tremendous amount of experience, and that is still what I see across the board. Real estate agents looking for deals, and I'm like, you gotta support the client. The goal is to support the client with their goals, right? And it's not just about listing their property. It's about knowing where do they want to go? What's the whole picture? Where's the market headed, right? You want to be looking at everything as a professional, as an expert.
Definitely. Okay, amazing. And I know, Afia, you've been in the business for over 2 decades now. From your perspective, what's changed the most from sort of real estate firms, independent agents over the past few years? What do you think professionals are kind of getting wrong at the moment in the changing market?
That is such a great question. Here's the thing, right? I feel like there's so much of a push to put people on teams now, right? Teams has become the biggest thing. And by the way, I had a team that was built the right way. And there's about 1% of the teams out there that are built the right way, right? That are operating the right way. And so, a lot of these agents are being put on teams, and the teams aren't doing any training for them. So the companies are saying, "Oh yeah, you've got to do the training," and the teams aren't doing the training. So now you think you're going to get on a team and have leverage and get results because of it, and you end up not having anything to show for it. And that to me is a real uh, obstacle for people to look for, right? So right now, I feel like there's an opportunity for people to build an entrepreneurial business. Make sure you have the right company, right, that's supporting you. Make sure that you have the right attitude. And business planning is the number one thing I see agents will never ever do. The law of attraction is based on specificity. If you don't have specificity, I just want to make more money, doesn't work in the law of attraction. So
Very true.
be specific, right? Then you
Yeah,
can
that's
see. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, then you can see your look when you know you can see your numbers and you can see, okay, if I do this, this is the result I'm gonna have. That's about as powerful as you can get, right?
Exactly. And like you said as well, with being specific, you know how to speak because you know who you're talking to. I think a lot of professionals in real estate, outside of real estate, want to catch as many fish as possible. So they cast a really broad net and just hope for any catch, as opposed to being specific, like you said, and then that niche of your target audience really know and trust what you're saying because it resonates with them because it's specific.
That casting the wide net is the kiss of death. It's the kiss of death. Yeah, that was very well said.
Very true.
Yeah, it's
Um,
intention and specificity that create results, not generality.
exactly. And attention in the wrong way, so attention in a broad sense, can, like you said, also be a kiss of death. It needs that real attention to detail, being specific about what you want to provide and who you want to provide it for.
And who you want to provide it for, right? I want to
Mm,
talk to sellers because I want to build my database full of sellers, not full of buyers, right? Full of sellers. So it doesn't mean I don't sit
exactly.
open houses. I can sit open houses and get buyers all day long, and I still time block and have the specificity to build my database.
I love that. And some amazing insight that you've shared as well. I know that people want to get in touch with you. How can listeners that are really connecting with what you're saying, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, thank you. They can go to realmomentum.com and they can actually they can get we offer 28 free lead sources that you can get that only ask you to pay when you close, right? Rather than pay per lead,
Wow.
I'd rather have somebody who's only asking for money when I close, right? So we give those to our agents. We offer that there, and then they can reach out to me directly at Ophir, Ophir, at realmomentum.com. And they can come to we do trainings regularly. They can sign up for our opt in list. We do architectural trainings, commercial 1031 exchange. I want people to be as educated as possible in all areas of real estate because that's how you best represent your client.
Definitely. That's real valuable strategy as well that you're offering. So I love that. And I know that you have a book coming out. We'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Where can people find it? Has it been released yet?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I'm so excited. It's been like a love project, for me. I've been working on this for a while. And so my book is called Feed Your White Wolf, and it's about my journey in real estate. And when I started, I was drinking a bottle of vodka a night and I was smoking a pack of cigarettes and I was eventually a meth addict, right? And so I went from going down a rabbit hole to changing everything in my life just by doing the things that I talk about in the book. There's spiritual laws in the universe. And when you push yourself and when you really challenge yourself, the universe rewards you. And it's not easy, but it's so rewarding. And you said it yourself. I mean, growth and transformation happen in all areas of life, not just one. So as you're transforming as a human being. And, the agents aren't just becoming successful real estate agents. They're becoming successful leaders and successful people in their community.
Wow, really powerful
So
as
the
well.
book's
I
coming out at the end of May. May 31st is probably the launch date, but I will send you the launch and the date and everything as soon as we're have a specific exact date for the launch.
Okay, very exciting. We're looking forward to the launch, and I have a feeling a few of our listeners will have really connected with what you've said today and some of the insight that you've shared, and will love to get their hands on a copy. So, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Afia. We've loved having you, and the insights have been invaluable. And yeah, we can't wait to see how our community continues to reach out to you and look for more insight on the industry.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. And I always love people that are committed to supporting others in their growth. So I love what you guys are doing, and I think that it's empowerment, and that's the most powerful thing in the world.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Afia. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.